Hi there. I've had therapy on and off for a few years and want to go back to having it again. I've seen a few different therapists, and the one I felt understood me the most and who I felt the most comfortable with has increased their fees quite a lot since I had therapy with them last. I've been reluctant to have therapy with them again due to my finances. I've tried a couple of other therapists, but never feel that understood by them. One was on the NHS, and I'd go as far as to say that she looked totally uninterested at times. That's so awful. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. Needless to say, the sessions weren't helpful. When you search online, there are so many therapists that it feels overwhelming. It's also so time-consuming emailing them and setting up initial conversations. So my question is, how do you know if a therapist is going to be a good fit for you? I believe that therapy can have been really helpful, but how do you find a good therapist?
I mean, it's a good question. So one thing that is worth just exploring in the finances department is that most therapists in private practice will see a certain number of clients on a sliding scale basis. So with this therapist that you've had a relationship with before, I don't know whether that's an option for them. I'm just sort of putting that out there in case people weren't aware that that is what many therapists in private practice offer. But then I think the reality is, I know it's time consuming and a sort of pain in the ass to meet with more than one person, but it probably is the way that you are going to be able to tell if somebody is a good fit for you. I think you can feel quite a lot just in one 15, 20-minute conversation. Yeah, or even a full assessment session.
Or ask her previous therapist if she takes pro bono clients, if she could reduce her fees.
Yes, well, yeah, that's what I said already.
Oh, but didn't you say ask her? Oh, you're sorry.
What did you think I said? Anyway,
find another therapist that does that.
Oh, right, find another. Well, yes. I mean, either of those. But I think it is a really difficult thing to find somebody that you know is going to be good. The other thing to do is you probably have friends that have had therapists. I don't know if you might not be able to see their therapist if they're really close friends, but often they might have sort of more personal recommendations, and that can just feel a little bit more containing than to just sort of find a random person on Google. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and that it is a pain. I sort of felt very applauding of her not just settling with a therapist that she doesn't feel comfortable with, because I think often people stay with therapists that don't feel like a good fit because they are worried about having to find another one, or they're not sure if it's something quote unquote wrong with them. So I wanted to applaud the motivation to find a good fit, because that's what the research shows is most important in terms of outcomes, is a good fit, which really, I suppose, means feeling safe with that person, feeling like you can be yourself with that person, that they appear trustworthy, as in they do what they say you're going to do, they're there at the right times, they have decent boundaries around, they have a good sort of information around ethics and GDPR, things that just check out as a baseline security of a therapist. A real simple thing, which maybe this is, you don't need to know this, but people who are looking, someone who's been UKCP or BACP accredited, and that is not the same as BACP registered, is someone that, if you're a lay person, it's hard to read what all the qualifications mean. It just means they've had a certain level of training. It doesn't guarantee they're going to be a good therapist or a good fit for you, but it is a good safety check.
And a level of client contact hours.
A number of hours experience, yeah.
Yes, that's really important.
The other thing I would put out there, just from a combination of finance and frustration, is, have you thought about groups? Because I don't know what you are looking for support with, but the groups tend to be issue-based, although sometimes there's women's groups and men's groups, but often they're issue-based, like grief or histories of abuse. And they're both really affordable, really powerful. You're not relying on one person as the therapist to be the right person. And people are, I think, are nervous of groups, but I am a big fan. So that's also another avenue that's quite an affordable avenue for people to go down.
I think groups are incredibly powerful and underutilized
I
by
agree.
everybody within the NHS too. They don't offer them enough. But I do think you can get so much more just sometimes being present in a group and not speaking, listening to other people. That idea, like we did with the Julie Smith conversation, you get a different perspective on yourself when you listen properly to other people, which you do have to do in a group. It's much more affordable.
And the AA groups are really great. If you've
Spectacular.
NA, OA, NA, codependency, gamblers, because they have a whole, not only is there the group, there's the peer support, there's the sponsor, having a sponsor, there's a whole framework that, you know, I spoke to an addiction specialist the other day who works one-on-one with addiction, but she was saying, really, if a client isn't in AA or client isn't ready to go in AA, they're not really going to recover, because you need so much more than just a therapist if you're dealing with something quite entrenched like addiction.
I think groups are amazing, and I agree. As somebody who's run groups, I think, this is a tangent from the question, but I think there must be a reason behind it. It's actually quite difficult to get consistency in people turning up to groups.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to run a group, and you want to make it not so much an AA group, but a much more like safe, contained, these are the same people we're building relationships within this group, it's very, very difficult to get people to come every week. And I don't know why that is.
It is.
I think maybe groups are scarier because there's more people, you feel more vulnerable. And that's partly why they're powerful, but it also means that there's less of them around because they are harder to sustain as somebody who's providing them.
I think with the research is that if you have a positive experience in a group, it's multiplied by the number of people in the room that witness it. But also if you have a negative experience, it's multiplied by the number of people. So if you have a shaming experience, it's sort of devastating in a group. The other thing I think is voluntary organizations, like look up locally what your voluntary organizations are, or training institutes, because I know that the people in the training institutes like Metanoia or Tavistock or Regent's College, those are the ones I can think of in London, but there are plenty all over the UK. Sometimes a trainee therapist is really attuned and can be extremely helpful. And you can get that for free. So I'd look at that and any voluntary organisation along with AA.
And I might be pointing at the obvious here, but you don't have to have a session with every therapist. You can have a phone call.
Oh, good idea.
Any therapist would usually offer an initial free phone call for 15 or 20 minutes to just get a feel of them. And so you could book 3 or 4 in, which is a pain, but it's quite
an hour of your
doable
time.
And it's not costing you money.
I think that's a great series of answers. Thank you. And thank you very much for the question. And do everybody, now that we're open with our new season, to continue to ask more questions. Thank you very much.